YouTube, what's happening? So today on the big Ram 3500, we are doing the entire front end, basically, all the parts that I can get. So because of COVID and everything, apparently there's big supply chain issues. I can't do tie rods because they're just not available for a 16. I have a weird truck. It's a weird crossbreed year. If you have a 16, you might face the same problems. So today we're gonna do axle U-joints. We are gonna do brakes. We are going to do hubs. What else are we gonna do? I don't know. We're gonna do a couple other things. One thing I've never mentioned on any video, if you don't own one of these books, they make them for everything. You don't have to spend time on Google trying to find torque specs. I'm a stickler for torque specs. I torque my lug nuts. I torque everything. I'm silly strong for some reason, and I have a habit of breaking bolts. I don't like breaking bolts because we all know they're a pain to get out. Another thing to do this job, let's walk over to the truck and have a little look-see. This is a 16 Cummins, and it has just over 205,000 K, so everything is pretty worn. It's got rust, it's got road grime, it's got everything. Get yourself a good bottle of brake clean and whatever penetrating oil you use. This here, my personal favorite, Fluid Film. I've been a crane operator for a while, and it's all we use on cranes. If it's good enough for a giant, $10 million machine, it's probably good enough for your truck. So let's get at this. So where you're gonna wanna start is, you're gonna wanna take off this tie rod. So we're on the driver's side here. I'm only gonna do this side on the video. The only difference between this side and the other side is an extra tie rod on the other side. That's literally the only difference. Another thing to note too, don't mess around with the safety on this. Right now I have an axle stand under the axle. I have a bottle jack under the arm, and I have a 4-ton floor jack just kind of under the transmission cross member, just because, like, you don't want your truck to fall and crush you, right? So we're gonna start by taking the tie rod off, and then we'll get into more. So once your tie rod's off, this whole knuckle, everything, just gonna be freewheeling. Good habit, try to make sure you just put your nut back on. Don't lose it. You know where it goes, how it goes, everything. So because I can't replace these tie rods, we're gonna get into that after, but we're gonna toss some grease in there. It's not greasable, but there's ways. So now what we're gonna work on is we're gonna get the brakes off, the caliper off, then we're gonna take the bracket off, and then we're gonna get to the wheel bearing. And then it's gonna be the fun job of doing the axle U-joints, and we're gonna do us some ball joints today. Let's get at it. So your ABS wire, it runs behind your shock, comes up underneath this little push clip right there into the frame, and then the clip for your sensor is kind of behind the inner well attached to this shock mount. It's got that stupid little red push clip, and then you gotta pull this out. It sucks, just so everybody knows. And you have to take this out in order to pull your whole axle. So I went ahead and I did that first. So now we can take the caliper off. So once you get these two, you need a 5/8 socket to get the two on a 2016 anyway. Who knows what the hell else they are. Just kind of pry it out. But be careful, don't let it drop. You don't want this hose to take too much beating, right? If that hose fails, you have no brakes in that wheel. So what I do here is like to peel this out, and because we're putting new brakes on anyway, I'm not gonna bother doing much to that right now. I'll do that in a bit, but I like to just get an old coat hanger or something, the metal ones. Now it's up out of the way, it's not gonna fall, it's not gonna get in your way. So now we take off the caliper bracket. So your caliper mounting bolts, if you have a small impact, that'd be great. If you don't, you're gonna need a breaker bar. Those are big bolts. They are torqued very, very hard for obvious reasons. We're gonna get into this a little bit later, but I just want to get into it now. This is my, I think, third Cummins that I've owned, and I've never seen slide pins like this with this kind of system. I actually questioned the guy at Napa when I went and got it. If you're gonna have this apart, it's very important to grease these guides, because that's what controls your caliper from being able to go in and out. If these seize, then you're pretty much dinked, because you're gonna stick. So the top one looks good, but the bottom one, I don't know if the camera's gonna show this. There's a bunch of rust and grime in there, and a little bit of grease right on the tip that does you nothing. And there's now a large score on the side of it. Well, both sides, maybe it's supposed to be there, whatever. Either way, I bought this new slide pins and boots for the front and rear at Napa. They were, I think, 12 bucks. Like, it's 12 bucks, and this is gonna save your pads for quite a bit. So why not, right? And now that we have caliper bracket off, it was definitely time to change these pads. These are the same pads I got with the truck when I bought it. I don't know when and if the last time they've been changed. These might be factory for all I know. I doubt it being 200K, but you know, you never know. So now our next step is gonna be to remove the drum. Sometimes they're ignorant. If you're planning to reuse your drum, I would suggest putting a piece of wood behind it. I'm not reusing this drum. I bought all new drums. So I'm just gonna beat the hell out of it with a regular mini sledge, and that's it. So I'm gonna get at that. I don't know if the video picks it up, but there's a lot of crap in there. The rotors are pretty bad scored too. I'm just gonna replace them. But it's tight in there. Like they seat very well, especially once they start getting some corrosion. So sorry, I'm a driveway mechanic, so I have to wait for my videos sometimes. So now we're gonna be smart. I'm gonna wire brush this right here, the bolts for the wheel bearing. I might even just take this wire off too, that way it's out of my way. I think it's a 5 mil. But make sure you spray some good penetrating oil right here. Hit it with a wire brush, because those are not fun to get in and out. And definitely use an impact, because they're ignorant. So basically, while you're waiting for your penetrating oil to do its job, you might as well go ahead and take this heat shield off. It is of course a 10 mil, because why wouldn't it be? With the wheel bearing bolts, it sounds stupid, but try to be careful with them. I don't think I've ever seen a wheel bearing come with new bolts. If you have, drop something in the comments and tell me where to buy those. I hate reusing bolts, but you know, you have to do what you have to do. So yeah, there's that. So no go on the impact for these. They're freaking tight. I think when I looked at the torque specs, it said something about 260 foot-pounds. My impact is good for, I thought it said on here, but it doesn't. Breaker bar is good for as strong as you are. If you need help, put a pipe on the end of your breaker bar, get a buddy, do something, but you're gonna need to break them loose with a breaker bar first. So because I want to change the axle U-joints, I already have those sprayed, hopefully getting them ready. I got all the bolts out for your wheel bearing. Now comes the fun part. Get yourself a great big pry bar and just try to wiggle it out whatever way you can get it. And then, yeah, so I'm gonna get on that, and then next part of the video, we'll take it out and we will go swap those U-joints. It's definitely one thing to bear in mind. You want this to come out kind of square. So chisel, start on the corners. Try not to damage anything other than the wheel bearing, because that's getting swapped. your spindle is not getting swapped unless you are. And if you are, you know, do what you got to do. But get everything kind of going with a chisel, and then she starts to pop out. Have a look where it's not popping out, and then focus on that. So this is now my last corner to try to get popped out, and then there we go. So now we can get that pry bar in here. And, she's gonna take some force. You're pulling a lot of stuff out at once. You're pulling out the whole axle and the wheel bearing all at the same time. So just keep wiggling back and forth, corner to corner, side to side, whatever you got to do. Make that sucker come out square, and then we'll yank her out. Should have just left the video running. That was like 4 seconds once you get the chisel in there. So once you get that, kind of wiggle around until she finds a happy place. Then you slide your whole axle shaft out. So I don't have a second person helping me video. All you do is you just pull this straight out. Try not to let the spline end fall into dirt or whatever. You know what? I might actually, we're gonna shove this back in for now. I'm changing the wheel bearing and those. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna take the wheel bearing completely off. Just that way, when I'm pounding out those U-joints, I don't have extra crap in my way. So give me a minute, I'll be ready. So this axle hub nut on the 16s, I think 17s and 18s, I'm not sure about 3/4, but the 1 ton, they're a 33 mil socket. Most kits don't have that. So you can go to, I don't know if Napa does, but if you're in Canada, you can go to Crappy Tire. If you're in the States, you can go to O'Reilly's or Pet Boys or whatever. You can actually rent these big sockets and pulley pullers, which I just rented a pulley puller from Crappy Tire. And yeah, so here we go. So another thing to think about is you already have the wheel bearing out. Some guys do it different. Some guys wait until they change the axle universals to take the wheel bearing off. But either way, if you have the other side tire lifted off too, and you try to take this off, it's just gonna spin and spin and spin and spin. So what you need to do is you need to get the pry bar and shove it in there just to make sure it stays and stops from spinning, right? So I'm gonna go get the pulley puller and I'll show you guys how that works. So as it turns out, apparently I must be an idiot today and I'm not thinking clearly because I already have all 4 bolts out. I don't actually need the pulley puller. The pulley puller is so you can avoid using the chisel and everything else. And you just, so I'll show everybody how the pulley puller works anyway. So what you do, and this is a 7-ton puller. Again, this is not a tool you have to buy. Just about any reputable auto parts store will rent these to you. I think even Napa does. So if you don't have these unbolted already and you want them unbolted, what you do is you get the jaws around it, send this peg down all the way in until the jaws are gripping, and then you just shove your impact on this end right there and just torque and torque and torque until this sucker releases, and then your wheel bearing will go like that. So now the wheel bearing is completely off. That's junk. Throw it in your scrap pile. Do whatever you want with it. Throw it at your neighbor. So now get your axle shaft, give her a little twist, however she wants to come out, and Shazam. Now, time for those damn things. So there's many ways to get this U-joint out. You can use ball joint press, you can use a shop press, or I'm gonna show you guys the old school way. I fabbed this stand up yesterday just out of an old 5th wheel. So there's little C-clips that just disintegrated, so I can't really show you. They just kind of hold everything in place. So what you do, get a screwdriver or a hook or the fork, whatever else you got to do, and just kind of get it on there and just kind of tap it out. They're going to be corroded and ugly and rusted, but you'll get them. Oh, see, there, that one popped out, and it just falls away. Make sure that it's all the way out though. You got to go all the way around this sucker, because if there's any pieces of it left, she ain't coming out no matter what. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get all these out, and then when time comes to pound these out, I'll get back to the video. Obviously these clips sometimes they've been in there a long time. These are the factory universals, so over 200,000 kilometers with them. The clips are really hard to get out. They're complicated. There's just grime and shit in there. So I have this side completely out. So once I shove that side down, then it's going to be a whole lot easier for me to get this clip out. So what you want to do is you want everything to go that way. So how you can do it on a vise is set it in there and use this yoke to hold the weight while you tap here. Well, not tap, give it a good smack with your hammer, and it'll force everything out from the pressure here. So as an example, just like that. That's how it'll end up working out. So you get this cap off, and then you just repeat cycle all the way around. So the least fun part of this job is when those little C-clips, they like to break. When they break, they end up like this. And you have to get all of those out, or the caps just honestly won't come out. So I have all of them out now, so now it's just a matter of the last caps. So try to wiggle that so the U-joint takes most of the brunt, and then you're back to just give her some tap, give her some anger, do what you got to do. It has to come out, and you have to kind of be careful of this lip, right? So it's sometimes not so fun, but quite doable. It's just do what you got to do to get her out, and that's all it is. So when we come back, it'll be in. So if you've ever watched any of my previous videos, you'll know I'm pretty much a stickler for not putting things back together dirty. That is absolutely disgusting. Both ends, which, well, yeah, right? It's outside, it does a lot of work. So before I bother putting in the new U-joint, get yourself some brake clean, clean the parts. Always, 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 always. Like doing the actual like outside of the yoke, if you want to do it, feel free. I mean, it's not gonna hurt, but it's more about the inside where the cups go. So what I like to do, get yourself a wire wheel on a drill. Get that bad boy nice and shiny, because why wouldn't you? There's the old, there's the new, and I'm not done yet. I'm gonna actually spend some time. I got a nice little wheel set over there. I'm gonna get a solid wheel and just make sure it looks as new as it possibly can. Give these new U-joints time. So I'll be right back. So that's all cleaned with brake clean. It's wire wheeled. When you wire wheel it, you'll notice if you got a little overzealous with that hammer. A couple of mine were knurled a little, or peened a little bit on the side. Small round one end file handles that real easy. So when you do your caps, get some rubber gloves and some just good grease, like same grease you'd use on these U-joints, which pretty sweet. 2 grease zerks, and just rub the outside. Make sure your gloves are clean, and then when you pull the cap off, do yourself a favor and just rub a little bit of that grease around those needle bearings. My dog's an idiot, to make it easier. So peel 2 caps off. Like I said, rub some grease on those needle bearings, the inside and on the outside. Make your life a little easier. You want to do this 1 cap at a time. I've made the mistake. Try to do 2 caps at a time. Yeah, it's not pretty. I had my wife go get me parts, I think 4 times because I was an idiot. So it was actually her that figured out, babe, why don't you do it 1 cap at a time? And yeah, always listen to your wife, boys. She knows, trust me. So that's what it should look like. Make sure you have the open slot aimed down, that way it holds those needle bearings in. And how I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna use the anvil part of my vise, and I'm just gonna tap and then come up here and just work her down. Make sure that sucker goes in square, because if it doesn't go in square, you are gonna have a bad time, I promise. So once you have those pounded in enough, they always come with new clips. If they don't come with new clips, do not buy them. They are junk. You will regret it. You will curse. You will swear, and your job won't be complete. Then you have to try to figure out a way to go get new ones. So unless, you know, you have a buddy, you're married, you have another vehicle, whatever, at that point you're kind of screwed. So to install these, you need to get the cup in there far enough that it'll guide in the journals, and then press that sucker right in the middle. She'll open up for you, and then once you hear a little snap, that's it. Do that to both sides, then grab you the other part, the other yoke, lather, rinse, repeat, and you're good. All right, ladies and gents, now it is time for ball joints. So I searched high and low on what size nuts these are supposed to be. This one is straightforward. They're pretty much all the same for most years. It's a 24 millimeter. The factory size lower ball joint nut is a 36. If you bother to just rent a kit from wherever you rent, the 36 will come in. The lower nut for the new ball joint is a 39 millimeter. Does not come in any kit. Here in Canada, go to Princess Auto. They're the only place that I found that have them. In the US, you can find them everywhere. They're O'Reilly's, they're Parts, or Pep Boys, just everywhere. They're so readily available. Canada sucks, by the way. Yeah, so we're gonna get into that. Step 1, get your penetrating oil. Oil the absolute hell out of everything. These don't like to come out. Do yourself a favor too, buy all your parts, don't get it at it that day. I bought my parts 2 days ago, and the ball joints have been in the freezer ever since. If you know anything about metal, freezing it makes it smaller, will drive it in easier. So yeah, that's my best tip. So I'm gonna get at this. Maybe I'll do a time lapse for part of it. So I just hit the impact on the upper. When you do the upper, I don't know if you guys can see that, put a couple threads back on, because it's just gonna smash down once you finally get the lower to break free. So you don't want this to come down, hit your foot, knock your axle stand out. Just, I mean, the nut will catch it. Let the nut catch it. So guys, once you get that out, I realized I'm an idiot and I forgot where my pickle fork was. You need this tool. I forgot to get it on video too. This tool goes right here, and you shove it in as far as you can by hand. Tap it in with your little 4-pounder, 5-pounder, whatever you got, and then just bash the hell out of it with a sledge until she forces and drops down. The drop down is why you leave that nut hooked up. So now we get to the point of lift that up, unscrew this nut, which should still be out. So when that happens, it's probably not shown on the video, but now that I damaged it from throwing the pickle fork in, now it's spinning. So underneath there is an Allen wrench, basically hole. So you shove an Allen wrench in and then just untwist this bolt. So I'm gonna get that done kind of off camera, get set up to do the U-joint, or not the U-joints, the ball joints, and then we'll be back. So now you figure out what the combination is gonna be to work with. This part of the job can be a complete pain in the ass. If you feel like taking out the lower first, you can drive the upper up. I'm gonna do it this way just because it's how I've always seen it done. It's how I've always done it. So this is how we're gonna do it. So basically now you're just reef on this bad boy until she pops out. So they don't give you nearly enough tooling in these ball joint kits that you buy from literally anywhere you buy them, whether you buy it off Amazon or rent it from Crappy Tire. So take the nut from the bottom bolt, shove her in there, and then these two, this cup and this plate. And you don't have room up top for anything except for your breaker bar and a 22 mil socket for the end of your C-clamp. Now, here's a small little caveat to that, is yeah, it's gonna be fun to reinstall the new one. And the cup, like, you can't reuse this, but thank God you have to do the other side too. So now we're gonna get going on the bottom. Just a quick thing too, like we did with the axle U-joints, run a wire brush down there, do whatever you gotta do, get that hole clean. Me personally, I'm gonna take a torch too, and I'm just gonna heat this a bit. Because if you remember, I said my new ball joints are in the freezer, so that'll shrink it. Heating this will expand it. Just much easier to install. So guys, to get this lower ball joint out, I had to take one of the cups and literally slice it open, because right there, don't know if the camera's getting this or not, it's there's a lip at the front, but it's solid at the back, and none of the cups that come in a kit fit there. So honestly, what I had to do, I took a grinder and I cut the threaded end off the ball joint, and then I pressed the damn thing out. I checked on this ball joint. The cups will work to press it in, but for whatever reason, not to take it out. Like, come on, Chrysler, what the fuck? So, I mean, now it comes time, you press in the ball joints, lower and upper, put your spindle back on, make sure everything's clean, everything's proper, everything's good. Don't forget, clean all these. Look at that. Hit that with a wire brush, wire wheel, anything you have. Spray some penetrating oil on it too. Then hit it with brake clean, clean her up good. Clean out your axle tube as best you can. Do everything in reverse. Wash, rinse, repeat for the other side. Have a great day, guys.